You need to click a button there. So we're going to keep the audio for the podcast, and we might take a few pictures from this stream so that, it looks real. I had some questions. I don't know whether you've received them.
Yes, I did.
You did. How would you like to do this? Because what I normally do is I do like an edit. I will say, this is Martin Richards recording for the podcast, The Power of Coaching in Education. Today we're speaking with, and I'll add your name and details, which you'll tell me. And I will then say, after you've spoken, I will know what to say. I will say what you're going to talk about.
Okay.
Because I don't know yet exactly.
Yeah, sure.
And at the end, I will summarize. I will say, we've listened to Elizabeth today, and she's brought up these points. Again, I don't know what they are yet. So there's some editing to do. We have a number of standard questions, and that's your background as an educator, which links you to the audience. What made you become a coach? Was there a moment or a decision? And in particular, we'd like it if you could share your first experience being coached when you felt the magic, I call it magic. You felt the power of coaching.
Yeah.
And then to relate that, I've got all the questions here. I can give them to you one by one, or we can.
Yeah, we can do whatever you prefer.
So, Elizabeth, would you like to introduce yourself? Hello, and then we'll go from there.
Hello, I'm Elizabeth Helen Adamovich. I am an ex-teacher and now coach, and I have been in education since 2002.
Could you say a little bit more about your background as an educator? What did you teach? Where did you teach?
Okay. So my first teaching experience was teaching English as a foreign language to Italian students who were 13 to 19 in a summer camp. And I loved it so much, the interactions, the little aha moments, everything. So I went and did a PGCE in secondary music, did that at the University of Reading, and then worked in Oxfordshire at an independent girls' school for a while as director of music, and then went internationally after that to Oman and Egypt, teaching English literature, English music, drama and art, which then led me into year 6 transition lead in Northamptonshire, and then head of music in a school in Repton, culminating in deputy head of juniors in a school in Leicestershire.
Wow, that's a fun journey. In terms of how many years were you in the education?
Well, from 2002 to 2022. So yes, 20 years.
Yes, fantastic. So what made you become a coach?
Well, I kept seeing patterns in the adults when I was working as a teacher. I kept seeing teachers feeling a little bit stuck, or maybe cycles of thoughts repeating, and it led me to start thinking about patterns of human behaviour. I found myself studying the staff room as opposed to being in it. And I was like, and I wanted to know more about the psychology of the workplace, in particular schools, because they're places of so many interactions. You've got the managers and the staff, you've got the teachers and the students, the staff and the parents, students with peers. And then, having studied positive psychology and neuroscience and transactional analysis, well, I studied that as a coach on my coach training, but I just realized when I saw the coach training program that was exactly what I was looking for. I wanted to really better understand these human interactions.
So from a curiosity of what was going on in all those circumstances, you looked at psychology and transactional analysis.
Yes, and neuro-linguistic programming and habit formation. Yes, they're all elements of the coaching course that I completed. Yeah.
Okay. And could you share a little bit about your first experience of being coached?
Yes, I found it absolutely fascinating that coaching could unlock so much just by somebody truly listening to you. And I remember when a coach asked me, what assumptions are you making in relation to this? And that really got me thinking. And they said, what if, this wasn't true? And it made me realize that every action or communication is a choice, and doing nothing is also a choice. And that we choose what we do, we choose what we don't do. And that was a bit of a game changer for me to sort of live more purposefully. Yeah.
So what were your assumptions was the key question for you. Got you reflecting on your mechanisms for making choices.
Well, I was basing a lot on previous experiences, and I didn't even realize I was doing it until, what are your assumptions about this? And I thought, oh, what an interesting question.
I think most of us have an interesting question as a coach that unlocks the client. You never know when it's going to come. Never know what it's going to be. And you mentioned as a teacher, the ahas. As a coach, that's what I live for. I'd love to be in the room when the client goes, oh, you can see the gears changing.
Yes.
Wow, that hit me exactly where I needed to be hit. And I don't mean in a nasty way.
No.
It does land rather like a bomb, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Okay. So having established that coaching is powerful in some way, could you say why would coaching be powerful in an education context? And what might be the benefits of coaching your students?
Well, if you think about it, teachers are leading all the time, and every interaction is life-changing, really. And so if their thought processes are full of assumptions, even if they're based on previous experiences, this can colour the relationships with the students and the learning that takes place as a consequence. Like I said, the interactions are life-changing because we're moulding the students and staff in our care, whether we're being purposeful or whether we're not. So empowered and purposeful leaders and teachers can really impact the lives of so many people. And I'd say the benefits include more aligned and relaxed teachers, more discussion around the values and the ethos, a genuine improvement in communication. And some of my clients have reported feeling happy to go to work when they were previously considering leaving the profession, better work-life balance, and I think that just comes from spending an hour a week with a coach and having that time to think, which is just so necessary. And that's just an absolute premium for teachers. And I just think unlocking that has such a massive impact.
Yeah. We do indeed suggest that teachers take a time out from all the work that they do to work on themselves, because they give so much. And receiving is so important. Otherwise, you end up, as you're probably aware, pouring from an empty cup. As you get to the end of term, you have nothing left and you wonder why.
Yeah.
It's an investment in oneself, and it doesn't have to come from a professional coach, although I would absolutely recommend getting a professional coach. It can come from a really good colleague, someone who's able to act as a coach for you, act as a sounding board, however you want to call it, a listening partner, to give you that moment of respite from all the thoughts that charge around in our heads, to check in on, for example, it may well be, check in on what assumptions we're holding on to.
Or even operating from.
Exactly. And just become aware of them. That helps all of us, because obviously it helps the teacher and every one of the students that they work with.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Could you perhaps, because you've used coaching as a head, I presume.
I've used coaching. I've coached heads. I've not used coaching as a head of a school.
Right.
Because I was deputy head before I did the coaching qualification, and I'd never even heard of coaching. So when I found out, it was a revelation. I thought, oh, these two worlds just marry together perfectly.
So the timing for you was you were actually deputy head, then you left and became a coach after.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So it'll be interesting to see what might happen if deputy heads are not only coached, but trained in coaching skills.
Yes, that would be fantastic. It would open up a whole new world in so many ways.
What skills do you think a deputy head would benefit from having?
To use the coaching approach, I think first and foremost, you'd need an open approach. The belief that comes from transactional analysis that in essence, every person is good. That sounds really simple, but I describe it like an avocado, like every person at their core is good, and it's the fleshy parts that are the experiences and assumptions that shape or cause the behavioural responses. So it's looking beyond. And then if we believe at their core everyone has the best of intentions, then we can move on to skill 2, which is the listening.
Mm-hmm.
And real listening to what is said and what isn't said. And then skill 3, I'd say, is the authentic curiosity, asking questions and actually being open to surprises. Yeah, I think they're essential.
Cool. So a belief in the individual first, listening, and being open to perhaps being surprised.
Yes.
Yes. For both of you, I suspect, the coach and the coachee.
Yes, absolutely.
Cool. Well, we'll pause the formal recording there. You've covered those points really well. Is there anything else you'd like to share with the world as an educator who is a coach? What would you like to tell educators, teachers, school admin? I'd
like to say, just give it a try if you've not heard of it, and if it's not embedded in your school already. It's the way forward for learning to improve, for relationships to improve, for the ethos to improve, for people to be aligned with your school values, not just paying lip service to authenticity, integrity. You know, it really does. If you can embed the coaching culture into a school, you're really onto a winner.
That's the quote of the day. You can hear that echoing across the whole web platform here that we're going to post this podcast on. We'll echo that bit, I think. Give it a bit of 3D. Yeah. The reason I asked you is because I say the same thing, but in a way I'm seen to be selling something, and I guess I always have been selling things. I'm selling an idea. I'm selling the idea that coaching would be good, and they can hear, oh, here comes the price tag. And even though there isn't a price tag, there's an assumption on the listener's part that, oh, this is going to cost me money or time. If we say, no, it doesn't cost anything, they go flip it over. Oh, well, I don't have the time for it.
Yes.
And
but we're giving them time.
That's
the irony.
Yes.
Yeah, but it's not, it's a movement, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's not a sales pitch, it's a movement. Yeah, I love it.
It's more of a movement than a sales pitch, although, as I said, there are things for them to buy. We now have a range of teacups, T-shirts, practical items with our logo stamped on it, and occasional quotations from maybe yours will go on there. Because people do like to support non-profits in their work.
Yes.
And if they don't want to buy, X number of hours of coaching because it's not appropriate or not possible for them, they can still buy something that, keeps the wheels spinning.
Yes.
There are books which I've written. They're also up there for sale, but then that seems fairly normal that you should charge for a book.
Yes.
What else is there? Yes, I said I would share and I'll pause the recording. Where do I do that? I do that there.